Last year, about 100,000 refugees and asylum seekers entered the country, and they're estimating a similar figure this year. So what are your thoughts on this immigration into Ireland at the moment?
Thoughts are completely uncontrolled. We have no borders. Passport control means nothing. There's no control at all. There has to be some sort of control. There has to be some sort of system. There's genuine refugees, but there's also a lot of freeloaders coming in, and there's no differentiation between the two.
So what are your thoughts on the current immigration policy in Ireland?
I think it's very important to help people when you can, but I think in fairness you need to help your own first before you can help anyone else. And we've a lot of problems ourselves with the houses crisis, our own people not being housed for the last 15-20 years because of a failed government policy. And I think it's a very fine balance between doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. So I think it's important that we look after our own, and if we can, then by all means help whoever we possibly can.
Last year, approximately between refugees and asylum seekers, 100,000 people entered the country, and now they're projecting a similar number this year. So what are your thoughts on that level of immigration?
I don't have a great problem with it for the simple reason we've zero unemployment relatively, and so if they can get jobs, they help the economy.
Sure. So what are your thoughts on the immigration in Ireland at the moment?
I don't like it, I tell you the truth. I don't like... I'm not wrong with helping people, but I don't agree with all these young men all coming in that I think they should be out fighting a war with their... Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of it, but I'm not anti. I'm not racist. I'm not racist in any way, no, but I still think we should help them, but not... I think we're going too far on it because there's so many of our own Irish people homeless.
So what are your thoughts on the current immigration into Ireland?
Well, I don't have a problem with it, but everybody needs a home. But is there enough homes in Ireland for them? I don't know.
Well, there is a slogan that they're pushing is Ireland for all and housing for all. So they seem to want to give it. They seem to want to invite everybody.
Well, everyone's entitled to a home, just as long as the Irish can get a home as well.
So what are your thoughts on the immigration into Ireland at the moment?
I think if the people are genuine, fine, but I think the law system here and our government are failing us because they're not vetting these people, and they can't seem to vet them because they're from countries really, really far away on the other side of the world and stuff, and they seem to be turning up without passports and everything, and the law seems to be very, very loose around them. Like, I mean, if I was to go and referee a young team tomorrow, I'd have to get vetted by the Garda, and I'm an Irish person. So, I mean, if it's good enough for the Irish, why isn't it good enough for the refugees and all the foreign people coming into the country?
Then, there's protests going on up in Dublin, especially in the East Wall and Ballymun and all around the country. So what are your thoughts on these protesters?
Everyone, we live in a democracy, and thank God for a democracy. Peaceful protests, I have no problem with it at all. It's just that I have a different view to them.
So what are your thoughts on the protesters?
Some people have the right to protest. They're being branded as fascist and sinister, but anyone who protests now seems to be branded with something, and it's unfair, and it's out of order, I think.
Have you heard about the protests up in Ballymun and East Wall and other places around the country where they had a lot of single males dumped into their communities, and they're protesting? Have you heard anything about these protests?
I have heard about them, but maybe I haven't, because they don't. I think free speech has gone out the window here in this country, and all Western Europe, all the Western world. I don't mind saying They're doing what the Chinese and Russia done for decades. Silencing people over their opinions. I don't agree with all that.
What are your thoughts on the protesters?
I think the Irish are standing up for what they believe in. They're obviously scared for their young families with the violence and stuff that comes with all these male refugees coming in, and like I said, where is this all going to end in years to come if we don't stand up now for our children? It's our children that will have to deal with the future, not our generation.
So what are your thoughts on letting thousands and thousands of single males into the country?
I think, to be honest, if you're going to be helping anyone, you want to be helping women and children first. I think that's most important. Children are the ones that suffered when it comes to any kind of a war or conflict. Not saying that men don't get it hard here, but I think you want to help women and children before the men.
Well, I think everyone should be vetted if they're coming into the country. We have our own children and grandchildren to look after as well.
I think families that are genuine and if they want to stay here and integrate, I don't see no problem with that. It's just the scale they're doing it at. And another thing, the minute this war started, well, the war's going on for years before that anyway. We all know that, but they're trying to hide that from us. But they were able to drop all the COVID, all the restrictions just like that, and they let all the refugees in with no screening.
Look, we can't facilitate people coming into this country. We just can't. And I would be on for people coming into the country. But they're talking about, asylum seekers coming in and sleeping in tents in the middle of the winter. That's not support. So if we have a place for them, bring them in. But if we don't bring them in and put them in tents.
Will the political parties' immigration policies be an important factor in your voting in the next general election?
Absolutely, yes.
In the next general election, will immigration be a big factor in who you choose to vote for?
Yeah, well, I've already made up my mind. I've been, I shouldn't say this, I've been a one-party man all my life and my family, but I've completely changed. I'm going to vote differently this time.
And
if I'm alive, thank God. Please God, yeah.
And if a snap election was called right now, do you know who you'd vote for?
I think I would vote for either Sinn Féin or Aon2, one or the other. Yeah, Aon2 more so.
A snap election was called right now, do you know who you'd vote for?
I think I do.
You want to say who it is?
Not really.
Because
I'm not sure, but they've never been in government before. They've never been elected to government before.
Sinn Féin.
It could be.
Will the immigration policies of the political parties influence how you vote in the next election?
Well, I think most of the political parties have a somewhat similar view. There don't seem to be any major objections to them anyway. So I wouldn't like to see a party that did what Trump did in America and put up big walls to stop them getting in. I certainly wouldn't agree with a party that did that. So we have to. I know the country is only so big, we can only take so many. But I think there's room, and provided we're careful.
I really think we could do with an independent government. Whether that's possible or not is to be seen, but yeah, a good independent government I think would be very, very good for this country.
Yeah, like a nationalist, a kind of an Ireland first government.
Yes, indeed, yeah, you're right there.
If a snap election was called right now, do you know who you'd vote for?
No.
If a snap election was called right now, I know exactly who I'll be voting for.
You want to say who it is?
No.
In the next general election, will the political parties' immigration policies be an important factor in who you decide to vote for?
Oh yes, definitely.
And just if there was a snap election called right now, do you know who you'd be voting for?
I do.
You want to tell me?
No, but I know who I'm voting for.
Okay, that's grand. All right, thank you very much.